Welcome to WorksheetCloud Grade 9 English. I'm super excited to be teaching you today. My name is Mrs. Nortier for those who have not been part of the previous lessons. I'll take the opportunity now to tell you that there are loads of lessons for you to go back to and just watch if there isn't an English lesson necessarily uploaded for a specific day. So that you have some cool resources at your hands and at your disposal. And I'm really happy to add to that today. If during the lesson you have any questions, please just know that you can grade 9 at WorksheetCloud.com. You'll see the address on your screen. And then any extra information that you may require will be shared with you. On that note, begin with some motivation. So I like to start off just with a little bit of reflection, sometimes more really than motivation. It's easy to be motivated for something. It isn't always easy to reflect and then make appropriate decisions. And I think if you want to find a purpose and a happiness in your life, work with what inspires you. For me, what inspires me is being able to impart knowledge and seeing learners understand and start making connections. So really, if you want your life to take on a meaning and a purpose, you have to find your inspiration. And you're all very young. You have lots of time. Don't feel pressure that I need to know right now, what is my purpose? What is my inspiration? But start trying new things and seeing where your motivation takes you. It will really help in the long run, and it will keep you inspired to just keep doing great things. I know on that note, what inspires you probably isn't conjunctions, but we're going to be doing them today for a language lesson. You do need to know what they are. They are part of your academics. And hopefully today, with some fun interactive activities, it's not going to be something that is uninspiring. All right, so you will need pen and paper if you wish to take notes, if you wish to write down answers. Otherwise, the activities, like I said, are interactive and video-based. So you can simply watch, think about the answer, and see if you were able to get it right. Okay, so whichever way works better for you, please make sure that you have pen and paper if you need. Make sure you're ready to watch and think otherwise. Okay, so there are two types of conjunctions. There are coordinating and subordinate conjunctions. So we're first going to look at what the coordinating conjunctions are. I'm very sure you've heard of fanboys, the acronym behind trying to remember them. Let's watch the video. If you were unsure or if you've even heard it before, take it as revision, and then we'll analyze what the fanboy conjunctions are and what they mean.
Coordinating conjunctions are small words that connect two independent parts of a sentence. We can remember them with the acronym FANBOYS. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Take a minute and memorize them. If you know these words, you'll avoid a lot of comma errors. Fanboys are connectors, and here are some notes on punctuation. If fanboys are connecting two words or phrases, you don't have to use a comma between them. The office party will feature cupcakes and lobster. Commas are also not required if the fanboy connects two verb phrases. We can either order lobster or stay within our budget. If the fanboys are connecting items in a series, use commas between each item. The accounting department will probably recommend cupcakes, celery sticks, and water. If the fanboys connect independent clauses, however, insert a comma after the first clause and before the fanboy. Jane will bake some decoy cupcakes, and Larry will sneak in the lobster. Remember that an independent clause is basically just a sentence, and you can't mash two sentences into one sentence without something between them. That's when you get run-on sentences. Divide them using one of the 7 fanboys. Now, there are lots of subordinating conjunctions, but there are only 7 coordinating conjunctions, the fanboys. Remember that coordinating conjunctions connect clauses of equal strength, and when they do, they need a comma. Casey is an introvert, yet he actually likes office parties. Do these fanboys need commas? Practice punctuating these examples. Office parties tend to be boring, awkward, or awesome. Yes, use commas in a series. Let's hope Larry and the boss don't get into a fight over the lobster. And is a fanboy, but it's connecting 2 nouns. No comma. Casey loves cupcakes, but he doesn't like lobster. The fanboy but is connecting 2 independent clauses. Use a comma. Larry breeds genetically modified lobsters after he finishes his workday. No comma needed here. After isn't one of the fanboys. It's a subordinating conjunction, not a coordinating one. So learn the fanboys and use them confidently.
Right, so fanboys conjunctions are the 7 conjunctions that we call coordinating conjunctions. These conjunctions join 2 sentences of equal weight or importance. They don't technically need the other sentence to make sense. So for would be the F in fanboys, A is and, N nor, B but, O or, Y yet, S O. So with fanboys, when you are using these conjunctions, you know that you're using a coordinating conjunction and is joining 2 sentences of equal importance or strength. If I had to say to you, John likes tea, Lucy likes coffee. Now I want to join them. John likes tea and Lucy likes coffee. I use and you can see it's there, because John liking tea has nothing to do with Lisa liking coffee. They can stand alone, those 2 sentences, and still make sense. So a coordinating conjunction will separate 2 thought sentences, and those can make sense on their own. Now we're left with all the rest of the conjunctions. So what's nice about coordinating is that you can study these 7 and you know fanboys coordinating. It's not so easy to study every subordinating clause or subordinate conjunction rather in the world. You're going to take a long time. But what you can do is the process of elimination. Anything that's not a fanboys conjunction must be subordinating or subordinate. Let's watch a video just to give us a bit more insight into subordinating conjunctions.
Hey, grammarians. Today, let's start talking about subordinating conjunctions, words like although and after and because. Because this is a pretty complicated topic, because in order to understand subordinating conjunctions, you have to understand the difference between an independent and a dependent clause, because that's what subordinating conjunctions do, is they unite independent and dependent clauses. That's what subordinating conjunctions do. But what what are these? What is
The
an
reason that
independent
I'm
and a
pausing it quickly
dependent clause?
is just so that you
okay,
know. So what we said earlier, coordinating separates two sentences that are both independent. Subordinating joins a dependent or independent, a sentence that can stand on its own, to a section that needs it. They need each other to function together.
First of all, let's back up again. What is a clause? A clause is just a language chunk that has a subject and a verb. That's what a clause does. All sentences are clauses, but not all clauses are sentences. I'll write that down. So all sentences are clauses, but not all clauses are sentences. It's possible to have something that has both a subject and a verb that doesn't stand on its own, and that's a dependent clause. We'd call that a sentence fragment. What a dependent clause does is provide extra information that isn't necessary to the understanding of the sentence, right? But an independent clause has to be able to stand on its own. So let's take a look at this sentence here. Herbert performed his irresponsible experiments because he was curious. And this sentence is composed of two clauses. In red, we've got this independent clause. Herbert performed his irresponsible experiments. And in green, we have this dependent clause, because he was curious. Now, we know that because he was curious is the dependent clause because it explains more of why Herbert did what he did, right? It is explaining the reason for his performing irresponsible experiments. But because he was curious on its own doesn't work as a sentence. He was curious does. That's a sentence. But because he was curious asks more questions than it answers. Because he was curious, what? If a clause causes you to ask, yeah, so what? Then it's probably a dependent clause. Write that down. Put that in a doctrine. So a dependent clause should cause you to ask, yeah, so what? Because a dependent clause leans against an independent clause. It's like a ladder laid up against the tree. The tree is still going to be standing there whether or not the ladder is there or not, but the ladder is useful because it allows you to get up further into the tree and explore its leaves, if that makes sense. It allows you to get further context and further understanding. But the tree could just as easily, it's still a tree without the ladder, right? You don't have to have a ladder in order to be a tree. All right, so another thing about the difference between a coordinating and a subordinating conjunction is that coordinating conjunctions only unite independent clauses with each other. Which means any sentence that has a coordinating conjunction like but or anything else in fanboys, which is for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, right, can be separated into two sentences, two separate sentences. Look at this. So, Jimothy liked to wash the dishes, but Beckany preferred to sweep the floor. Now, these can each be their own sentences. Jimothy liked to wash the dishes, Beckany preferred to sweep the floor. We can combine these if we want to, and we have. Whereas this subordinating conjunction sentence that begins with although cannot be separated into two sentences. Although she loved Sir Reginald, Lady Penelope hated his pranks. So Lady Penelope hated his pranks, that's a sentence. Although she loved Sir Reginald, that's not a sentence. This is a dependent clause. So this can be split. This cannot be split. Because although she loved Sir Reginald doesn't stand on its own, it just grants additional context and detail to the fact that Lady Penelope hated Sir Reginald's pranks. So with that in mind, here are some of the most common subordinating conjunctions in English. And some of these you might recognize as being adverbs or prepositions in other contexts, but you can also use them to unite dependent and independent clauses. So here we go. After, although, as if, because, before, even if, even though, if only, like, rather than, since, that, though, unless, until, when, where, whereas, wherever, whether, which, and while. All of these words have the power to unite independent and dependent clauses. You may notice some of them, like after and before, are prepositions. They can be used in many ways. English is complicated, but I am confident that you can figure this out because you can learn anything. These are some of the subordinating conjunctions of English.
As you heard in that
David
video,
out.
there are lots of subordinating conjunctions. It's all the conjunctions that are not a part of fanboys. There are obviously a lot that are a bit easier to learn. So since, because is a big one, after, for, when, those are all subordinating conjunctions because they are joining sentences that need another one to function. So in essence, a coordinating conjunction, fanboys, connects two sentences that can stand alone. A subordinating conjunction, everything that's not part of fanboys, connects one full sentence to another part that needs it for information. Let's do a quick interactive activity. This is where, as I said, you can either write the answer, watch, decide what you would choose, and then see if you got it right. Okay, I think I have done something to freeze it. No, sorry. All right, so how many were able to get correct? I hope you kept a bit of a score. And then also just deciding for yourself if you think it's a coordinating or subordinating conjunction. All right, so I'm going to ask you to pause the video so that you can either think about or write down these answers, and then we'll meet up on the other side. Right, I hope you were able to work through those first 5. You can again pause. Here are the next 5. All right, let's have a look at the answers. I'll switch between the activity as well. So the first one was before. Sign the sheet before you leave the room. Our next one, when the boy came in, the dog wagged its tail. Now you can actually use whenever there as well. Both would be perfectly appropriate. They're both subordinate clauses. Number 3 was whenever. So Nicole feels relaxed whenever she practices meditation. Number 4 was because. Jennifer could not participate in meditation because she was sick. Number 5, I will not stop working hard until I succeed. Number 6, whenever Kira leaves the room, her baby boy starts crying. Number 7, he worked in a multinational company in Paris before he shifted to Japan. 8, I was walking to the lobby when he entered. Number 9, whenever the teacher left the classroom, the students started shouting. Number 10, after the lights went out, we all huddled in a corner. So there are the answers for you again. Obviously, I showed it to you now within the sentences. So you've got for, when, or whenever. Whenever, because, until, whenever, until, when, as soon as, or even whenever and after. It's quite easy to insert conjunctions. I think the difficult part comes when you have to identify. As long as you remember the fanboys conjunctions, you will then know that everything that falls under fanboys is coordinating, everything else subordinating. All right, so keeping in mind our inspiration theme, the most important thing is to enjoy your life, to be happy. It's all that matters. And I think when you find inspiration and when something makes you happy, that is the purpose of life. Don't chase material possessions because that's not going to fulfill you. You need to focus on your feelings and emotions, and that is the great purpose of life. I hope that I've been able to share both some inspiration and academic language knowledge with you. Thanks for watching Grade 9s. This lesson was brought to you by WorksheetCloud. I'll see you guys again soon.